So essentially, between these two drawings, I'm going to add a PROC switch to the input module and a solenoid to the output. And I want to be able to display those on my pneumatic drawing. In this, you might have seen other webinars or videos from us in the past talking about peer-to-peer relationships. You can still use peer-to-peer when you're dealing with fluid power, if that's the case. But as an alternative, you can go to the normal parent-child relationship as well if I want to represent a PROC switch and a solenoid on the pneumatic diagram. So as an example, let me add a PROC switch to start with. And I'm just going to drop it down on this particular wire. And then for the description, I'll just call it pin press stop position retract. And then under catalog data, I'm going to hit the lookup button. And I'll just assign it this first Eaton catalog number. And once again, I probably should have pointed that out. Notice that it automatically filled in the pin/terminal numbers. Those were blank when I originally just put this in. I'll give it a location code again. And then I'm going to pick OK at the bottom. There's my parent symbol on a PROC switch. Now I'm going to insert a solenoid symbol. And again, this is the parent symbol. No pin numbers have been automatically populated as of yet. And I'll just call this pin press retract it. So I go back to the catalog number, and I'll just again pick this very first Norgren. You notice that the pins, once again, just like any parent symbol, could be relay coil, could be PROC switch, could be a drive symbol. I have it automatically populate. So now I want to take that information and translate it to my pneumatic drawing. So this time, I'm going to insert a representation of that PROC switch, meaning I'm going to drop it down, let's say, right about here. I'll go to my parent sibling. Whoop, I'm going to go to my project since it's in a different drawing. There it is right here. And notice this has no pin numbers or pins or connection points. This would be set up just as a display. I want to represent that PROC switch from my input module, but it's not like I'm going to do any wiring to the PROC switch when I display it in my pneumatic drawing. So that's why those are grayed out. But you can see it did cross-reference. It's, at 710, there's the cross-reference that goes back to the parent symbol. Over here, So at reference number 1102, there's that same parent-child relationship. All the cross-referencing is fine. And then I do the same thing with a solenoid. In this, I'll drop down, let's say right here. And I'll pick that solenoid that I just dropped in. In this, I'm getting this because I added an extra 1 on the end of the symbol name. Normally I wouldn't. But it still works fine, carries all the information from the parent symbol. This actually does have a pin/terminal number on it. And once again, and you can see it through the surfer too. You know, you can see those symbols are indeed linked together. And then the same with the PROC switch. Now let me go back to the parent symbols, particularly the catalog number. A lot of this is tied, as far as the intelligence is concerned, a lot of it's tied to the catalog number. Because like I said, you can take any two symbols and link them together just by giving them the same tag. But that doesn't necessarily make it intelligent. So you can see all I have is the parent/coil pins populated. Because when I put the PROC switch down, those terminal/pin numbers automatically got populated because of right here. You notice that there's nothing in the pin list. I have a child, but there's nothing in the pin list because it's just there for display, which you can do all day long. People don't realize that. And then if I look at the solenoid, and I go into edit mode, and notice here I do have pin numbers, terminal numbers for the parent symbol. And that's why you just saw them automatically get populated in the output drawing. But I do have connection points on the child as well. So that's why it's filled in there. And once again, that child symbol that was created, it's just that little solenoid. I'll go back to it in a minute. It's not an open contact. It's not a closed contact. You can make a child symbol out of any symbol you want. When you go to add the intelligence to the catalog database, you just leave it as undefined. Because again, if I go and take a look at that symbol, you know, right here, that's the symbol itself. That's it. The graphics is 4 lines, but I can still make a child symbol out of it. I can still make it intelligent in a parent-child relationship. And if I take a look at these symbols, you know, I'll start with the PROC one. When I created this, you know, you go through the symbol builder like I just did with the drive. You know, the category is there as far as the table, but you know, you're used to a lot of these attributes already. You know, you got the tag, you got descriptions, you got your cross-reference, installation, location. If you're proficient at making all that stuff, you know, same with installation, location. And here I terminal/connector descriptions. And if I look at these, because you might have a lot of symbols created already where, you know, you've got your connection points down, you've got your descriptions, you've got your tag, you got all that. But it's just a matter of, you know, maybe you make a child symbol out of it. So when you go to the symbol builder, you know, the default tag value when you create a child versus a parent. But again, if I explode this, you know, we got all the same attributes used to. Normal symbol. And again, just is tied to the table that you want to point to when you go to hit the lookup button. Can't stress that enough. In the symbol builder, make sure your table is pointing, you know, through that family attribute to the proper table. You know, and again, some of you probably know this already, but it's all about when you hit that lookup button, you want to make sure that it goes to the proper category, which is a table in the catalog database. So, to surmise, as I said originally, you know, a lot of stuff out of the box might feel like parent-child relationships can only be a coil and its contacts, or, you know, there's other examples out of the box with like selector switches, even breakers, you know, especially the three-phase breakers that are out of the box, they're automatically parent, child, child. But as you just saw, don't be shy about thinking out of the box. It's just different situations. Like I said, in this first scenario over here, this would be a case where you want to show all the wiring in one drawing. But if you've got a symbol, any symbol, not just a drive symbol, any symbol at all, an HMI symbol, you can create a parent-child, an intelligent parent-child relationship out of it, just like I did with this example over here. And it's all about, once again, the catalog number. When you go to set it up through those two fields, the coil pins and the pin list, think parent pins, think child pins, and don't just think contacts. You know, parent, a lot of times the parent's going to be undefined, but you might not be used to choosing undefined for a child symbol, because most of the choices are for a relay coil and contacts.